Very well, thank you. And looking forward to a show today.
Certainly.
Two big headlines from yesterday. The backlog of tests has been cleared.
So we are going to see real-time COVID-19 tests.
And number two, we are possibly at the top of a curve we have still not seen yet. But blessed are those who believe, even though they don't see.
Amen.
So we are blessed. Let's move to the first headline.
Okay, let me take you to the graphic, and by that I mean graphic online.
Okay.
Because
you don't have the paper
itself is not here.
All right.
Accra, man miraculously survives assassin's close-range gunfire. And Bernard, this will sound very familiar when I start reading the details. We have to be careful about this. Noguchi clears COVID-19 sample backlog is here. Ghana at the peak of coronavirus crisis, according to the Ghana Health Service. Two big cases also, verdicts from the Supreme Court came yesterday. U.S.-Ghana defense agreement did not breach any law, says the Supreme Court. And Eurobond suit, Kenoferata did not indulge in conflict of interest.
That's what they say. No.
Now the Ghanaian Times.
Move on now.
Yeah.
Okay, Ghanaian Times.
Government seals 3 billion Ghana Citi deal for industries to cushion them against the impact of COVID-19. COVID-19 update. Noguchi free for real-time COVID-19 tests. Government supports media with 5,000 PPE. And Supreme Court dismisses cases against Kenoferata and the Ghana-US Military Cooperation Agreement. Front page of the Daily Statesman, let's not toil in vain. Health Minister appeals to Ghanaians to adjust lifestyle in COVID-19 fight. Social distancing or out of business. Communications Minister shuts MTN office. That was another story that came through yesterday. Now, the finder, COVID-19 infections at peak. Decline depends on adherence to prevention protocols. COVID-19, CBG shared 500,000 Ghana cedis worth of food during the lockdown. Adongo's accusations against Osafo baseless. This is Carlos Ahenkra. Don't only call for de-escalation of politics on COVID-19 when government responds. This is Kojo Opon Nkrumah, the Minister of Information. And COVID-19, shopping malls in Accra lament decline in patronage. Front page of the Daily Guide newspaper. They are still going with the fetish priest story. Human skull idol seized from killer priest. NDC goes ballistic over Baumia. And their Santihine is 70 today. Now, the Chronicle. Ghana to see decline of COVID-19 cases soon. This is the Ghana Health Service. Now, on the impact of COVID-19, ATL, which is Akosombo Textile Limited, ATL production stalls over no funeral syndrome. So people are not having funerals, so they are not ordering cloth.
Wow.
Now, work on Pokuase interchange on course. U.S. military case thrown out. And Mohammed's claim on press freedom falls. This is Media Foundation for West Africa's Suleiman Ibrahima. Front page of the Herald newspaper. Welcome back, Herald. Childhood indiscipline and tattoos got new Akuapem Hene rejected. Attorney General Gloria Kufu's active role revealed. The shutdown of the MTN office at Zodiac is also here, but then he asks, but allows Akuapem kingmakers to work free. Esiedun Ketia denies NDC running mate shortlist. Now the new crusading guide, GCB, to raise 3 billion Ghana cedis to support hospitality industry, others, according to Nana Akufo-Addo. Traditional leaders not above COVID-19 protocols. This is the National House of Chiefs. Baron CEO hot as property owners chase him over unlawful demolition at Dodowa. And Employment Ministry asks public to disregard fake relief package. Front page of the new publisher. COVID-19 cases, Ghana still in danger. Ghana Health Service warns. GJA petitions president over journalist stimulus package. And there's a story of an MPP chairman who has been involved in a car crash. There's an interesting story on the front page of the Custodian. Wrong use of Veronica buckets could spread COVID-19. This is according to a research paper by UDS. Supreme Court clears Ken on $2.25 billion bond issuance, throws out NDC's Boja Jemfi. Banks in resilient position to meet withdrawals. This is the BOG. Front page of the Informer newspaper, finally from you, Bernard. Enforcement of COVID-19 restriction law. Police breach constitution. Indulge in selective justice. Queen Kantanka, Bibi Ajasko in bloody fight. Bernard. Now, the Gold Street business, finally. Land bill nearing passage. Major land acquisition and usage reform coming up. First National Bank Ghana completes GHL Bank acquisition. Government decides against new lockdown. Businesses free to execute continuation plans. And African Development Bank Group unveils $10 billion COVID-19 response facility.
If you go online, citinewsroom.com, Ghana not yet at peak. Expect more cases. This is a biostatistician. Also, over 200 persons are waiting second negative test to be discharged. This is Ghana Health Service. Ignore fake letter on selection of Mohammed's running mate. This is NDC. Meanwhile, Communication Minister shuts down MTN office at Dansoman for not ensuring social distancing. Other stories: 4 Burkina nationals nabbed for entering Ghana illegally, and Health Minister laments disregard for mandatory wearing of face mask. If you go to citybusinessnews.com, the First National Bank acquires DHL Bank is the lead story. Also, food prices to keep rising due to impact of COVID-19. This is according to Isoko. And then ECG works to rectify anomalies for prepaid users yet to enjoy relief package. Meanwhile, Major Online, Ghana has reached peak of COVID-19 infections curve according to Ghana Health Service. Also, don't come out and gather unnecessarily. This is Health Minister. And Noguchi to start daily testing May 7. If you go to Star FM, Ghana nowhere near peak of COVID-19 according to CDD, the challenge Ghana Health Service. Meanwhile, COVID-19 not equivalent to death sentence, that's Ghana Health Service. And stop sacking contact tracers, Health Minister to Bukom residents. If you go to global places, CNN, BBC and co, BBC leaves with White House plans to disband virus task force. They're really desperate to go out of the lockdown mode. Meanwhile, in China, Hubei schools reopened for first time since the outbreak. So that's since January. So they've opened for the first time in almost 5 months. Meanwhile, if you go to CNN as well, virus started in late 2019 and spread fast. That's a very interesting story. And we also told that the UK's cases actually came not from China, but from Europe. That's what the South China Morning Post is saying. Yeah. Britain's early coronavirus cases came mainly from Europe and not China. And this is according to UK government's chief scientist. And apparently Italy and Spain were the two main places those viruses came from.
And there's a big story. I think we'll find that later on. The new mutation of the coronavirus that was discovered and announced yesterday.
Yes,
in the US. So you should also find that story.
We've seen that story as well. That's talking about new behavior.
Yes.
Of the virus.
Let me start for you from the Ghana at its peak from the Daily Graphic.
Yes.
So a story by Zadok Kwame JC says that Ghana is at the peak of its coronavirus crisis. This is according to the Director of Public Health at the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Pedu Sarkodie. At a press briefing at the Ministry of Information in Accra Tuesday, Mr. Sarkodie, in answering a question as to where Ghana is on the bell curve, said, "So to answer directly to the question, we are at the peak of the curve." Dr. Sarkodie said the enhanced contact tracing has contributed to the country's sharp rise in its confirmed figures. He, however, said the determination of the bell curve depended on a lot of factors, noting that based on the samples that are being tested, the country appears to be at the peak of the curve. Quote, "If we are using the daily case incidence with the signs and symptoms, then that will have a challenge. So clearly, the best data that we are using for the bell-shaped curve is the use of data of the dates samples were tested," he explained. He added, "So you realize that with the sharp rise and now with the cases that we are testing, clearly we seem as a country to be on top of the peak and we are at a stage to decline. That is the observation now." He, however, said the declination would depend on how we adhere to the various preventive etiquettes. And yeah, so that is coming from him.
For him.
No, I wanted to add something. Siasari also spoke.
Okay, what did he say?
On this. And according to him, the presidential advisor on health, Dr. Anthony Siasari, further contributing to the issue, said, "Unless all factors are put together, it is unclear to determine the shape of the country's curve." All that.
No, hold on, but that's interesting.
You let me give you the quote.
So it's basically saying that we don't know where we are on the curve.
Let me read the quote.
Okay, go ahead.
All that the curve means is that we are having an overstretched, overwhelmed health system. So if you are having too many people going to the hospital, then it means you have overstretched the health system. He added, in Ghana, our health system is not overstretched. Now,
I was interested in the earlier thing you said he said in Siasari's part.
This is it. According to the presidential advisor on health, Dr. Anthony Siasari, further contribution to the issue said, unless all factors are put together, it's unclear to determine the shape of the country's curve. He said the curve simply... Yes. He said
the part of the curve we are on.
Yes.
Because all the curves are supposed to be normal distribution curves. So they are bell curve. I think we should air what he said properly later during the show, because he was answering a question. I believe.
Yes. And on this matter, yesterday Duke represented us, so I asked Duke to approach Dr. Bedusa Akodia after
and ask
the president, ask him for the data.
Yes, or at least the graph.
The graph. But he said when it is ready, they'll put it on the website.
As in ready to be shown, or ready as in available.
When it is available.
Okay, now 2 reactions. The lecturer at the Department of Biostatistics, Ghana School of Public Health, University of Ghana, Dr. Justice Ayeto, has put claims by the Ghana Health Service that the country has reached the peak of its fast-moving coronavirus infection. The biostatistician says Ghana currently does not have the supportive and fundamental data needed to arrive at such a conclusion as it fights the pandemic. Speaking on Eyewitness News, Dr. Ayeto asked the Ghana Health Service to be circumspect with case management and then come clear on the pronouncement. So that's one reaction. If you go to Star FM, they also have CDD. They spoke to somebody called Kwame Sapong Asiedu, who said there's more work to be done to get hold of the virus in the country. Until and when we are able to move the spread from polynomial, until we are able to move the spread from polynomial, we are nowhere near the peak. The rate at which our cases are climbing does it look like we are approaching a peak? Look at the significant jumps over the last few weeks. I do not think that we should even be having such a conversation. The acceleration is so huge, the pharmacists want. Don't forget that for every disease, there's the acceleration phase, there's the peak, there's deceleration, and then the flattening out. So some people don't believe it. Let's go on the other point from yesterday's press briefing. Kojo.
Yes, Noguchi free for real-time COVID-19 tests after clearing 18,000 sample test backlog. The story by Claude Nyako Adams for the Ghanaian Times says that the Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research has completed testing of backlog of collected samples to test for the novel coronavirus in the country. Professor William Kobnampo, head of virology department of the institute, who disclosed this yesterday, said the backlog, which numbered 18,000, have been cleared at the institute. Addressing a press conference in Accra, Professor Ampofo indicated that the KCCR in Kumasi was, however, yet to complete testing of 1982 samples. The KCCR, he said, would by today complete the backlog to clear the national backlog of samples at the testing centers. This, he said, would enable the research institute to redirect their efforts on real-time testing and reporting to effectively monitor whether or not there were new infections.
Okay.
Let me take you to other stories then. Those were the 2 big stories that emerged from that. Or I could give you the close down of the office in...
No, the other stories. Let me give you 2 stories. The health minister is not happy. Okay. He's basically complaining about disregard for wearing of face masks.
Okay, the Daily Statesman
people coming out without any proper reason. I think that's an important.
Okay, let me give you that story from the Daily Statesman on page 2. Story by Isabella Jakwa says that the Minister of Health, Kukwajima Menu, has pleaded with members of the general public to go to the extra mile in adopting personal preventive measures as directed by President Kufuor and the government in sustaining the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. His appeal follows what he says is the lackadaisical and skeptical attitude on the part of some members of the public towards the fight, despite the continuous calls from stakeholders to adhere to the simple safety measures. Mr. Jumamenu made the call at a press briefing in Accra yesterday. Now, quote, some of us, even before this outbreak, had coronavirus in our system. That is why when the thing started, they called it novel. Novel is French. In English, it is new. So they say new coronavirus. It means coronavirus has been in the world for a very long time and it is still here with us. We need to first of all make our minds that our way of life, the way we live, is going to change for a long time to come. So we need to begin to advise ourselves that to enable the scientists fight the battle to win, we enable our president's dream realized. We have to change our way of life. Don't let me labor in vain. Don't let the president labor in vain. Don't let doctors and health workers labor in vain. God will not bless you if you let us go that way.
On this same story, my John Online uses another angle. He says the health minister is saying don't come out and gather unnecessarily. He's basically asking people to refrain from unnecessarily breaching the social distancing directive set in place, and that just as other countries have set in place social distancing protocols to contain the pandemic, it's important that Ghanaians adhere to the order to produce the desired effect.
Okay, now let's go to COVID-19 and effects on the economy. If you check the Ghanaian Times, government seals $3 billion deal for industries to cushion them against impact of COVID-19. Same story is in the new Crusading Guide. Government to raise 3 billion cedis to support hospitality industries. Others. Now the story says the President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has announced that commercial banks in Ghana have agreed with the finance minister and by extension the government to raise some 3 billion Ghana cedis to support the hospitality industry and other specific industries as part of strategic efforts to put the country on the path of recovery from the effects of the pandemic. Addressing industry players in the hospitality sector in Ghana at the Jubilee House yesterday, the president said interest rates will also be reduced to support industries as they strive to recover from the harm caused by the novel coronavirus. Now, on industries, ATL is in the news, Bernard.
That was an interesting angle, that the lack of funerals affects ATL. Yes. So at least now we know the reason a lot of people buy cloths is to go for funerals.
Because when you go for funerals, sometimes they tell people to get specific designs.
Where's the story?
For the funeral. I'm getting you the story. The story says the Director of Finance and Administration of Akosombo Industrial Company Limited, Mr. Justice Esiedu Boateng, says his outfit derives sales mainly from the production of funeral and institutional cloth to keep the company running. Speaking in an interview with the Chronicle to react to an allegation that the company was discriminating against the workers living in the Menya and Upper Krobo municipalities, Mr. Boateng regretted that the COVID-19 pandemic, which has resulted in the temporary ban on social gatherings, including funerals, had affected the mass production of fabric, thereby affecting the finance of the company. Workers of the textile company living at Bong, Somanya, Udumasi, among others, have been asked to stop coming to work. Now, the workers have interpreted this to mean a restriction on their movement by the government because of the fear that the COVID-19 virus is widespread in the area. Now, the man continued to explain how their fortunes basically depend on funerals and public events, and that if things get to normal, they can resume.
Now, let me also give another effect. This is citibusinessnews.com. Food prices will keep rising due to the impact of COVID-19. This according to Isoko Commodity Price Survey Service Company. Isoko is predicting that the prices of food items will continue to rise in the coming weeks due to the impact of COVID-19 on supply and production of some commodities. This is premised on the fact that for the post-lockdown period, two of the major staple foodstuffs, cassava and maize, recorded increases in prices across some markets surveyed in the country. Now, Isoko, who analyzed 7 markets across the country, showed that the price of a 91 kilogram of cassava recorded the heaviest increase of 28.8% to 124 cedis in April 2020 compared to the previous month of March. This was followed by cooking tomato and medium size of the Puna variety of yam. And then they give other details. Francis Danso Ajay, who is the content manager, explained the factors accounting for the rise in food prices. If there's too much rain, it spoils the cassava. Within the month of April, we didn't have a lot of rain to let the farmers uproot and sell the cassava. For the same month too, some markets also regulated how traders piled or how customers went to trade, he remarked. And then he also gave other prices of tomato in other parts of the country. And then local rice, highest price was in Kumasi, 440 cedis. Takari had the lowest price of 260 cedis. And then they expect prices to rise, and that this will be because of the impact of the restriction of movement in the market. It will affect all food prices.
Okay. Now, a bit of politics on the COVID side in the new publisher on page 2. Speak when others politicize COVID-19 fight. Upon Kroma. Information Minister Kujo Upon Kroma has urged stakeholders in the political space not to only call out politicization of COVID-19.
In the religious space? Stakeholders?
Stakeholders, yes. In the political space.
Oh, okay.
Not to only call out politicization of COVID-19 when government actors respond to their political opponents. He was responding to a question on fresh calls by some interest groups to de-escalate politicization of the COVID-19 pandemic in Ghana. Some key government actors, including the Vice President, have hit back at the NDC flag bearer John Mahama over his politicization of the COVID-19 situation. And according to him, these calls are in line with calls we started making from this podium as far back as a month ago. It is unfortunate that the persons making these calls had to wait for government actors to start responding to the politicization before now stepping forward to join the calls. Don't be silent when your candidate is politicizing the matter, only to speak when the other side responds.
Yeah, let's go to ECG quickly. This is Citi Business News. ECG says it should complete the configuration of a few more prepaid meters to reflect the relief package announced for consumers by the end of the week. Now, they declared that they deferred the implementation of the 3-month relief package for prepaid consumers from April to May to allow it to reconfigure its system. Per the relief, all lifeline consumers will get a 100% waiver for electricity consumed for 3 months, while other consumers will get a 50% reduction in tariff as part of measures to mitigate the economic impact of COVID-19.
Okay, let me take you to the Go Street business. Big news on land. Land bill nearing passage. Major land acquisition and reform coming. Now, the story says Ghana will soon have a formal legal regime to guide and regulate land acquisition and usage as the Land Bill reaches consideration stage in Parliament. The Land Bill 2019 seeks to consolidate reforms made so far in Ghana's land sector following the implementation of the National Land Policy in 1999. It aims to address long-standing challenges and problems embedded in the sector, as it would better define land management and acquisition after its passage into law. According to the Lands Commission, the regime would revise and consolidate the laws on land by harmonizing them to ensure sustainable land management administration system, effective land tenure system, and efficient surveying and mapping regimes.
Well, linked to that, perhaps once the land bill is passed, we will have an end to some of these stories, Bernard. In Accra, and this is from the Daily Graphic, man miraculously survives assassin's close-range gunfire. The secretary to the Kofi Akrashistu faction in the chieftaincy land dispute at Oshie in the Ga-South municipality of the Greater Accra region, Elder Newland Ansaba, Tuesday evening narrowly escaped death at the hands of 2 suspected assassins. Elder Ansaba was shot 4 times at close range, allegedly by 2 men who had waylaid him at Adabraka official town in the Accra metropolis while he was attending to private business around 8 p.m. He had visited a law firm in the company of New Kofi Akrashi, also called Neoshie, who had stepped out to do some reading in his vehicle when bullets rang out at him, breaking the right arm, hitting his left twice, and grazing his head. He was quickly rushed to the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Now, according to eyewitnesses, the assassins, wearing t-shirts and looking unkempt, had arrived on an unregistered motorbike shortly before the shooting. They had parked the motorbike close to the roadside and across the parking lot of the law firm, engaged in some conversation. And according to the eyewitness, I saw them and wondered what they were looking for at that place. Maybe I should have asked them what they were doing there because it looked strange, particularly at that time. I turned to go away, and a few meters away I heard the gunshots. Bah, bah, bah. They quickly rode off thinking they had killed him, while he also got out bleeding and trying to escape, said the eyewitness, who did not want to be identified. And Bernard, I'm sure what I'm reading sounds familiar. We have so many of these stories. The Prampra Man Kralo. So many of these linked with land
issues. And we have to find out from the police whether they are piecing these together to come up with some sort of trend to inform the way they react to this.
In fact, if you check the New Crusading Guide this morning, Baron CEO hot as property owners chase him over unlawful demolition at Dodowa. And the story says the CEO of Baron Distilleries, with the help of some police personnel, allegedly carried out a demolition exercise at Dodowa. And the unlawful case has rendered most residents homeless, as majority of them lost their valuable properties in the process. And according to this paper, the people who carried out the demolition exercise do not have any documentation that shows they own the land.
All right, before you bring me the interchange story, I wanted to hear 2 quick Supreme Court stories.
The 2 quick ones are that on the Eurobond suit, Kanoferata did not indulge in conflict of interest. Let me give you that story quickly. There's another one regarding the military bases, but let me give you this one. The Supreme Court has dismissed a suit which accused the Finance Minister, Mr. Kanoferata, of procedural error and conflict of interest in the issuance of the 2 billion Eurobond in 27. In a unanimous decision on Tuesday, May 5, a 7-member panel of the court, presided over by the Chief Justice, Justice Enini Yeboah, held that the suit had no merit. The court, however, said it would file its reasons for the dismissal of the suit by close of Wednesday at the court's registry. Now, at the same court yesterday, Bernard, US-Ghana Defense Agreement did not breach any law. The Supreme Court has declared that the Defense Cooperation Agreement signed between Ghana and the United States of America in 2018 did not breach any law. In an unanimous decision on Tuesday, May 5, 2020, a 7-member panel of the court dismissed a suit challenging the agreement. The court, presided over the Chief Justice Enini Yeboah, held that the suit had no merit. The court, however, said it will release its reasons for upholding the defense agreement by May 20.
Kojo, there's a good story from Pokwase.
Yes, and if you check the center spread of the Chronicle, work progresses on Pokwase interchange project. They've published a lot of pictures of the project.
What percentage have they reached? Have they mentioned
it? The story doesn't mention it, but what I'm seeing here suggests that all the substructure work is done.
Okay.
And now they are completing.
Now, there's a very interesting story about the origins of coronavirus, which I just wanted to bring to you.
Okay.
So EU is backing international inquiry into origins of the coronavirus outbreak. Now the European bloc says its member states will co-sponsor a draft resolution on an independent review into the coronavirus pandemic at the WHO. China has so far resisted calls for an investigation, saying it would become the target of blame game. But here's where it gets interesting. Coronavirus outbreak in France did not come directly from China. A gene tracing scientist has said researchers conclude that the virus was circulating undetected in France in February. Findings highlight the difficulties governments face in tracing the source of coronavirus outbreak. Then still in that same area, Britain's coronavirus cases came mainly from Europe, not China. And this is UK's government chief scientist saying that Italy and Spain were most likely the sources of imported infections in March. Now, how am I reading all these stories? When we did our own genetic signature of the virus, what our people said was that it was very similar to the one that was found in China. But that does not mean that it came from China.
Yeah.
So the question then becomes, could the virus have been in different parts of the world at the same time, while it was the China people that had the first sort of major outbreak? So there's a lot of research that needs to be done, and we'll get into that later on.
Well, also you can get, finally from me, Bernard, you can get a copy of the Herald today. They seem to have a very in-depth
Angle to which one?
angle to the Okuapehene installation over the weekend. So you can look at that one also.
Okay, and Kojo?
Yes, and for people listening to us in Kumasi, plans to construct 4 interchanges in Kumasi in the pipeline. The Minister for Roads and Highways was in Kumasi for a visit to check on projects happening, and he said that the interchanges will be constructed. He also said that the ring road between Ejoso on the N6 and Opimso on the N10 will be
Now,
constructed
just
as
a quick
well.
one. Airbnb is laying off 25% of its employees. And this is, you can say it's in the hospitality space globally, right? And in Ghana, our hospitality industry is getting some package from the president because they've been seriously hit by the coronavirus pandemic. We'll discuss that later on the show as well. Thank you, Godfrey. Thank you, Kojo. That was the newspaper review on Citi Breakfast Show. Coming up next is the Citi Business News. Stay with us.
The Citi Breakfast